one little girl, she came home from our coding camp and she said, "Mum, I didn't know there were girls like me."
Wow.
Now so every time I think about that, it just gives me like tingles, because for a lot of these girls, they are in their classes alone. They are being probably taught by a man in a class with boys who are maybe already quite familiar with technology.
Sure.
And that's one of the biggest barriers for girls and it was the same with me in computer science. That first year, I was so far behind everybody. There was boys in the class who had been coding since age 10. And here was me learning it from the first time at age 19. Now you're being assessed and almost not competing, but you're in this class with everyone else, and you've went from being the top grade person at your high school to being the bottom grade person in your computer science class.
Sure.
And you look around thinking, how did this happen? Did I miss something? Yeah, we missed something. Society is not helping us girls.
Absolutely,
And it's the same with these girls in school at the moment, because when the computer breaks, parents are handing the remote to the boy in the family, and we have to just stop all this kind of assuming that technology and hardware and science even is an innate thing that mostly boys have. It's not innate. It's definitely something that can be conditioned and encouraged and learned, and it's all about that kind of growth mindset. So that's one of our biggest challenges with the coding camps. Is a lot of our girls come to the table with growth mindset, which is awesome.
Yep.
But you will get the odd one who doesn't, and it's real fixed. And the first hurdle they fall, and you have to be there to catch them and to encourage them and to maneuver themselves into a growth mindset. And that's difficult. And that takes 3 days. And that's why we were like, this is important work that we're doing. These girls are finding their tribe. We're teaching them how to move themselves into a growth mindset that, say they don't end up coding in the end. That in itself is such an amazing place to be for the challenges that life will throw at them.
It wasn't the investor money that changed what we were doing. It was the fact that we decided before we went looking for that money that we wanted to build a high growth and big business. And once you make that decision, investment is a means to that end. And once you have the investment, you set yourself on a path to achieve it. But we knew, I mean, if you're going to tell the story to investors of, the big company you want to build and how fast you're going to get there with some authenticity, you actually have to want to do it before you go and have those conversations, which means that you're already the type of company that they want to invest in. So I don't think taking the money was the thing that changed us. I think it was deciding that we wanted to raise it in the first place.
By first saying we're ready to grow and we want to build that growth company.
Right.
I do, actually, yeah. And we looked at Airbnb and to get to that, when we were researching what type of platforms to go with, we did look at big scalable startups and companies, and Airbnb was one of them. And they use Ruby on Rails, and so we were like, okay, I think this is it. It's got to be custom built so we can integrate these things that we want. And so one of the guys we were talking to had a referral. He was Nepalese, and he had a referral to an up-and-coming Ruby team in Nepal. So we got a referral to them, and they built our platform from scratch. We did have a small experience with the previous company, with the signboard, where we used India for a little bit, and we lost $5,000 over there. And so we didn't have a great experience. So we didn't seek to outsource the tech, but it just naturally evolved where we got the referral. It was a referral from a reputable person in Sydney. So we just thought we'd speak to them. They were great. They were really keen to get involved, and we kind of took it bite-sized steps. So we didn't invest too much money without getting some work back from them. So I guess we kind of had a bit of experience there in trying to manage that.
What's your secret sauce on convincing these people to jump into the abyss of a startup? It seems like you've done a good job at that.
I used to be really structured in the way that I would do it, and a lot of that is like if you call them interviews, but really it was just sitting down and chatting. Like
Sure.
I would put a structure to that. And one of those very clearly, I would sit down and say, cool, I want to catch up with you again next whenever and we'll have a coffee. And it's like, and just to be clear, I want to spend the entire time of this conversation explaining to you why this could very really be the worst decision you've ever made in your professional life. And I actually really need you to get that.
Yep.
Like I need you to take responsibility for the gravity of that decision because it could be a train wreck.
They know what they're signing up for.
I need you to sign up for because I don't want to carry this responsibility for you.
Right.
I need you to go in, but I need you to go in informed. And I don't want to be in a scenario where you turn around and go, seriously, man, you duped me.
Yep.
Because I think that happens in all sorts of recruitment, not even founders. Like you look at, we've doubled the size of our employee headcount in the last 12 months. We're hiring grads, we're hiring experienced people.
Amazing.
But like, even in that point, it's like, I really have an issue with this idea of recruitment where people sell a job. It's kind of like, look, why sell it to them? Why not just tell them what it's really like? Because they're going to work it out soon enough. And you don't want them to come for 6 months and leave.
Yep.
So no, that was a really big part for me. And then I would also explain to them why I wanted to make it, why I thought it was worth it. So I just lay it all out.
Yep.
Like, this is why I think it's awesome. This is the opportunity. This is the idea. This is how big I think it could get. This is why it's a terrible idea. This is why I'm actually really hard to work with.
Right.
And there's elements of me that it's like, I get it. Like everyone else, I've got my flaws.
Yeah.
I think I'm relatively self-aware. So I might as well tell you what I think they are so that you can decide if you want to work with someone like that.
That's amazing. The transparency and honesty that you bring to the conversation probably helps you filter out the right and wrong people for what you need and for what they need as well.
Definitely some people that we had 2 meetings, we had 3 meetings,
right.
And that was it. And that's great. What an awesome outcome.
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you stay sort of very calm? I don't know. I can't even explain to people how insanely stressful it is. And then you don't have just one stressful situation at the time. Sometimes it happens that you have multiple. It could be 3 or 5 at various sort of categories of insanity. For example, this year we had sort of issues with the venue. We had to move from one venue, then we got to that venue. We were super happy after 5 months of sort of figuring out things and signing contracts, then to figure out that we have to move to another venue.
Oh, geez, yeah.
And yeah. And so stuff that kind of goes with that. And that's just happening in the background whilst you kind of doing a few other things and chasing 200 different people.
And looking forward into the future of Pause and into the future of yourself in Pause, have you thought about ways to reduce that stress by, growing the team or just putting together new processes in place or anything like that?
Yeah, every year I start with a sort of like all these amazing things I'm going to fix. And it just doesn't work like that. Some things work and other things just don't. And moving forward, yes, we would love to have a few more people. We would love to have a pretty solid team and support. But knowing what takes to build that, it is more people attending, more sponsors sort of sponsoring. That's going to help us be more sustainable and kind of actually have a normal sort of more normal, let's say more normal, because it's not, nothing is normal with festival, but let's say more normal sort of more sort of normal sort of team that can sort of deliver the next level of the event.
That's fantastic.
And so I think it's like one part was the recruitment piece, getting the sort of high quality people.
Yep.
And then the other part is then understanding what's important to those people. So what's important to our team is the camaraderie amongst the team, wanting to come to work because you spend more time with your colleagues than you do your family.
Yeah.
And then we have all these cool things, which nowadays are pretty sort of more common. But we have things like, we don't count people's leave. We don't have working hours.
Yep.
So people come and go as they like and all this stuff. And we just sort of trust everybody to get the job done, which creates an environment where people want to come to work.
Yeah.
And so by creating that environment and then by checking ourselves on a monthly basis as to how we're tracking and how we're doing and everything, you start with the recruitment. You then focus on the things that are important, and then you actually augment and grow that culture and improve that culture over time. Like nothing's ever good enough for us. So if someone from the outside looked in, they might go, "Oh, this is amazing. I love what you guys have got. This is a great team," or whatever. We're actually our biggest critics. Like we're so critical of ourselves. We had a session the other day where we looked at amongst the whole team, who in the team has respect for other people in the team.
Wow.
Who in the team can sort of help each other. What can we help each other with? How can we get better as people as well as in business?
Yep.
And those are the sort of things that Tomo has so much experience in that he can bring to our culture to help us develop and continue to improve forever.
Yep, that's amazing.
It was really scary at first because we had 6-figure salaries, and they basically got, at first there was no money at all, then it was a quarter of that. So it was a big shock in that sense. We also didn't have any savings, so it's not like we saved up. We got $20,000 investment from Gemma's father, who's also working with us. So he believed in us from day one. And most of that obviously went on, on the first bit of technology investment and so on. You have to be super, super clever. And one thing that I've discovered since, obviously getting a bigger marketing budget is some of the things that you test out when you have no money, say social media or content or running events or all the things that you can do without any investment, are still, I would say, the best kind of generators of building, a community and building fans. So instead of, I always think about impressions, you can have 1,000 impressions, and we have done billboards and had great success with that, but would you rather 1,000 impressions or 100 fans? And the way you build 100 fans isn't necessarily by pouring money into, Google cost per click campaigns or huge marketing TV ads or anything like that. So that was a really interesting lesson to learn, because we did have an offer of investment early on that we rejected because they wanted us to remove the criteria altogether. Yeah.
So effectively stripping the company from its soul.
100%. And it was a bit hard. We thought about for about 5 seconds, because back then we didn't know if we had, food to eat the next day. But then we realized that, if we do that, who are we? So, but I remember before we realized that was a side condition, I had worked out this marketing plan. I was going to spend $350,000 on all these different things. And I'm kind of glad I didn't get that money, because I would have blown it. Instead, I had to figure out what can I do with, $100 of my own money, and you treat that very differently to, when you've got heaps and heaps of money coming in that's not, your own kind of cash. So lots of lessons learned, and I think that's what everybody should do. Like, just do it on a shoestring budget, see what you can achieve, and then invest carefully into something bigger.
So what was the